Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm a believer in working with all of our stakeholders in order to make the community improvements that we need, but I do have a number of concerns about the Troster motion for the $300,000 Katasa donation. First, I'm concerned that this does not pass the public transparency test. To be clear, our integrity commissioner did not clear this project from being a potential conflict of interest. She simply highlighted that negotiating voluntary contributions from developers is a policy matter. And as such, she interpreted that she is not within jurisdiction. I have a significant concern about the very concept of negotiating voluntary contributions. A negotiation implies that the interests of both parties are met with acceptable terms and conditions. In this case, the interest of the local councillor has been articulated and is being met, but that of the developer remains unclear to me. But just to be clear, I want to speak to the legal consideration in the staff memorandum on this topic. It states that the approval of the development application was not conditional on the approval of the voluntary contribution. However, if the developer's existing and future proposals, then there clearly is, as the Integrity Commissioner highlighted, a policy gap regarding the perception of bias on future developments and decisions. I believe that most, if not all, of my council colleagues have expressed a concern regarding this policy gap. Our planning chair told CBC that, quote, there's no formal policies in place to govern whether or not a voluntary contribution can be made to something that the councillor considers important. Well, let's get the policy gap closed. That's the discussion that I think we should be having. And once we've put that policy in place, that is when we should be looking at motions like the specific one that we have today. If this was $6,000 to install 2 speed boards, then the risk to the public would be much less, and I would be inclined to say, let's just carry on. However, this is $300,000. We owe it to our residents to measure first and then cut to the proper length. So I'd ask all of you a simple question. What is the rush? Why do we need to decide today that Ward 17 should get $300,000 windfall from a local developer? Do we not owe it to the public for such an atypical situation and at such a significant dollar value to be properly scrutinized and to have adequate policy coverage? The narrative to date has been that there's a separation between this voluntary donation and the approved application. So let's simply permit the current development to advance while we provide due diligence to sort out the missing policy piece in this case. Colleagues, I cannot vote in favor of this motion at this time. We lack the proper policy tools to satisfy the level of transparency that the public deserves. I do not want to rush us to a precedent, despite the immediate $300,000 benefit to Councillor Menard's ward, which on the surface looks so appealing to the community, when the potential downstream consequences could in fact be setting us back in terms of impartial process, building costs, and development delays. To that end, I move that this motion be deferred back to council until a fulsome voluntary contributions policy has been developed and implemented.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. You'll need a seconder for that motion. Seconded by Councillor Luloff. For a motion then, please.
Mr. Mayor, could I just have a couple words to sum up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
No, I appreciate that. And I understand the sensitive nature of the conversation. Why do I believe that we should take a cautious approach to this? Well, $300,000 is a significant amount of money, and we have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that both the perception of conflict of interest and a potential conflict of interest are fully mitigated against. I'll reiterate, the memo I received from the Integrity Commissioner said that she ruled that she was not within jurisdiction to make the decision. This will set a precedent. And my first assessment is that it will add an additional layer of opaqueness that will slow down housing development and reduce public insight into the negotiation process with developers. To be clear, as I stated earlier, the whole concept of negotiating a voluntary donation is counterintuitive. A person that donates to the local food cupboard or Parkinson's Research Fund does so voluntarily because they believe in the cause. There is no quid pro quo with that. I have no doubt in my mind at all that should this motion go forward, every councillor around this table is going to be looking for similar arrangements with every development company that's working in their ward. This will delay projects. This is an additional step. This is more red tape when we're trying to reduce that, especially for things like affordable housing. It will likely also lead to increased costs that will then be passed on to tenants and home buyers because the development industry is going to factor this into their business case. We need to be careful and we need to have a proper policy in place. And that's all that I'm asking for with this deferral motion is to say, let's get the policy in place. And then once we have it, we can look at this and other similar types of opportunities for the city. This is not to say we shouldn't take advantage of opportunities for the city, but my concern is there may be a negative second order effect that we're not considering. Constant engagement and discussion regarding ongoing development, it's healthy, it's necessary. I will continue to do it in my ward as well. But to advance this motion right now without a proper policy in place sets a very dangerous precedent. And it is one that we as a city are not under any pressure to take right now. As was indicated, the approval for the application has been done. There's no need for us to make this decision today. It can wait. And if waiting is the right thing to do so that the public trusts us, then I think we should do it. It's for this reason, Mr. Mayor, that I ask that this motion be referred back to council once there is a policy in place that we can base this off of and measure this off of, because I believe that we've all articulated that this is not business as usual. There is in fact a requirement for an appropriate city policy. And this was identified in the last committee by the chair himself, by Councillor Kitts, by Councillor Troster and Carr. And I think it was appropriate to highlight that. So let's just put the two together. I see this as a linear solution. We get the policy in place, then we apply the policy to specific applications of it. And I think we can achieve that in this case. So that's the reason I'm advocating that you support deferral. Thank you.
Merci, Conseiller Plante. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to underscore my concerns from a broader perspective of what this specific decision could mean in terms of precedent within the city on development applications and with regard to our overall housing policies writ large. We have said since the get-go that we need to develop more housing, be it market rate, be it affordable. This process I cannot see go forward without adding a layer of process to every development that we have, potentially adding cost to it as well. And I'll just highlight in the letter that we received this morning from the Greater Ottawa Home Builders Association, quote, while GOBA refrains from commenting on individual projects, the association is deeply troubled by the potential precedent that this may establish and its direct impact on the integrity of the development process. I think we should be concerned. We need to have a policy in place before we move forward with significant dollar value voluntary contributions. I think it's that straightforward, and for that reason, I will not be supporting the motion that came forward this morning, but I'll be supporting the two amendments.
Thank you, Councillor Hill.